Okay, so once we've created our palette, our pattern, our next step is to start choosing color. And we have gone through and understand what the different color theories are. AdobeColor has them all organized here online in a very convenient way for us. So you go to color.adobe.com, make sure you're signed in. So number one important things, make sure you are signed in with your COD Adobe Apple ID, your Adobe ID. Make sure that that is signed in as your COD, because in order for it to work with your Adobe Illustrator, you have to be signed in using your COD Adobe account. And I find that sometimes when students tell me it doesn't work for them, it's because they've accidentally signed in to AdobeColor with a different Adobe account, not the one they're using for their software. So make sure, first step, and you know by going to this little blue icon up here, that's your profile. Make sure you can see it says, there's my email from cod.edu. That's my COD email. That means I'm signed in with my COD account. That's important. Okay, so right here on the left-hand side, color harmony, the color rules ensure a harmonic balance of colors based on the color you have set as a base color. So you can see that you can decide on a color you want to start with. So let's say I want to start with my favorite color. My favorite color is orange. So I'm going to go over here and start with my base color of orange. And I'm going to click this little triangle at the base. That means it's setting this color as my starting point. Okay, I've set it. Now, if I want to go with analogous color theme, it's showing me an analogous color theme. This is our hue. The very first color I'm choosing is orange. I want this is my hue. Analogous colors all sit next to each other on the color wheel. So it would be an analogous color palette. If I want to do a monochromatic color palette, that means I'm using my orange as the hue, and I'm either adding white or black to add value. A triadic color palette with orange is bringing equally spaced colors on the color wheel into the palette. So you can see there's green and blue and orange. Complementary, the complement to orange is blue. And so you'll see in this color palette, the complementary colors of orange and blue. Split complement brings the color on either side of blue. So a green and a more indigo. Double split complementary makes more of a square, rectangular color palette where you have colors on either side of each of the main colors. Square is equally divided on the color wheel into the shape of a square. Compound, shades, or the value, and then you can make a custom one yourself. So the first step is to choose your base color and then choose which color theory application you want to do for your design. So I'm going to go with split complement. So this is my split complement. So what I'm going to do then, let's say this is my color, and I'm going to make over here on the right, you're going to see there's a color palette. It says Save To. I've already gone ahead and made Graphic Design 1 Color Theory a folder for this project. And I would encourage you to do the same. You just hit the plus and you can name the library for this class. And I would do that because ideally you'll have libraries for other classes. So Graphic Design 1 Color Theory is the library I designed for this project. So I want to make sure that I'm in that library, and then I'm going to name it. And so for me, I'm going to name this my orange. If I don't want to be in all caps, take that off. My orange O-R, hold on, A-N-G-E, split complementary, T-A-R-Y, split complementary. So that is what I'm naming this. You want to name it the type of color theory you're using. And I'm going to say save. Now that's going to go into my library. The next thing I need to do two different. So I'm going to pull up our project brief just so you can see what we're doing and how the reason I'm saving it the way I am. Oops, I don't want to open this. I want to open my project brief. There it is. Okay, so we're going to choose 3 distinctly different color theory principles from the list using Adobe Color. I'm going to create a CC library for our class. You're going to save each of your 3 color theory principles you choose in the class. We're going to be doing them 3 ways. So we're going to do a colorway, which is the first one, which is hue and value or chroma. Then you're going to do another color way of the same color theory using just value and doing a third one using just saturation. And so let me show you how that works. So here's my first one, which is the hue with value or chroma. And so this is the first one. The next one, and I've saved it already. So the next one I'm going to do, I want to adjust the light or dark value of my design. And how I do that is this wheel is interactive. So I can select my colors in my wheel and I can pull them into the center. And I can start pulling them into the center to make them lighter. And I can adjust how light I want to do them. I can do it that way using the color wheel, or I can adjust them down here on the bars below. So I'm pretty happy with this one. So I'm going to call this one orange split complementary, and this is my orange value split complementary. And this is where I'm adjusting the value of my colors. So now I'm going to save. And now I'm going to do one that is called chroma. I'm going to go back to my original outer edges. And I'm now going to adjust the saturation of the colors. And so if I'm looking at these bars down here, I'm going to desaturate the colors by bringing in more black into my layout. And so you can see my colors are getting much desaturated. I'm bringing out some of that purity of the color. I'm bringing in, dealing with the desaturation down here on that last bar. Okay. And I might bring them in a little bit, graying them out a bit. Okay, and then this one's going to be chroma. And I'm going to hit save. All right, so now I'm going to go back into Illustrator and I can see, I'm going to go to my library. So if you don't see your library window, you go to Windows, Libraries, and they'll show up. Here's the library. I'm going to pull it out so you can see it. Here's my library. I have other color palettes in here that I had done earlier. I'm just going to focus on the ones that I'm doing right now, which is orange. These are my 3 orange libraries. So let's see how they work. So I'm going to start, and this is all for my first direction. So I've got to decide between these 3 which ones I want to do. Well, I really want to do this kind of woven one. So this is the one I'm going to move forward for design 1. I'm going to keep these from my process book to show this is how I got to this. But the one I'm actually going to produce is this one right here with the weaving. So now I need to apply my color palette to my design. So I'm going to grab my orange. I'm going to use my direct select tool, which is the white arrow. And I'm going to hold my shift key down so I can grab all of my orange bars. And now I'm going to put them into my orange. Oops. I got to be in the stroke. I'm going to grab the orange from my orange split complementary palette. And now I'm going to hold the shift key down and grab the green. I want to grab the green from my new palette. And now I might even say, you know what, I want to use 2 greens. So I'm going to have every other line be a different green. And actually, maybe I don't want the bars orange. Maybe I want them to be 2 different blues. So I'm going to grab, and I'm just clicking on the colors right there in my library, and they're selecting it for me. Isn't that great? Super easy. And then now I want maybe these guys to be my pop of orange. Oops. And I want these to be a fill. So I'm going to make this my pop of orange. I can also, if I want to make a background color, I can also build a color in the background and go object, arrange, send to back, and pick. I don't know, I've already used all my colors, but if I wanted, I could do a background color. I'm not going to because I'm already using all my colors. So, all right, so there's my design. So now I'm going to take this design and I'm going to do a couple things to it to make it more functional. One is right now, remember we talked about in class that when we have lined items that are our lines, if we reduce the size, and I'm going to show you by copying this, I'm going to copy paste just the lines. If I went now and just took and hold my shift key down and reduced it, look what's happening to my lines. Look what happened when I reduced it. It all became mush. It all became mush because they're lines. So we don't want that. What we want to do is change these lines into objects. So I'm going to select all my lines and I'm going to go under Object, Path, Outline, Stroke. Now they're shapes. They're no longer paths. And so let me show you what happens when we now copy shapes and reduce them. So here's our path. I'm holding that shift key down. Look at that. It reduces beautifully. It's no more mush. Look at how that looks. Isn't that great? So that's what you want to do when you have a line art. You want to change it to outline strokes. So now I've done that. These guys were made out of the circles. Actually, I want to move this one away a little bit. And I think I want to expand these. Object, effect. Expand appearance. Yeah, you want to hit expand appearance. Now they're the shape. They're no longer that floating circle in there. They're no longer editable either. So you can't go back and change them. Once you've done this, that's the way they're going to be. But I'd rather have that because they're now finalized. So that's final art. So those are all elements you keep when you are working. You want to keep it as outline, as a stroke. You want to keep those until you get them exactly how you want them. Once you have them where you want them, then you can outline them. But still, you would want to have you want to maybe keep a working document. And so you know what? I didn't do that, so I'm going to undo everything. Hold on, I'm going to undo, and Illustrator lets you go back 1,000,000 times. Okay, so here I am back to my starting point. And the reason I did that is because I forgot to make a copy of this in this format. So if I want to go back and edit it, I can. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to go ahead and make a copy of the stroked version. That's this version. I'm going to say, okay, now I'm going to go back to this version and do those steps again. So I can make sure that I have, so this one, I'm going to go and I'll do it one more time so you can watch. Object, path, outline stroke. Beautiful. And now I'm going to grab these little flowers that I made out of circles. I'm going to grab all 4 at the same time. And I'm going to go to Object, Expand Appearance. Now they're flowers. They're no longer circles. All right. And the reason I'm going to do that is I'm going to grab the whole thing now. I'm going to group it, Command G or Object Group. I'm going to copy and paste. Right? And I'm going to bring it down and see how that looks down next to my first example. So this is the difference of having shapes reduce and lines reduce. That's the difference in the artwork. And now let's take a look at what our pattern will look like. So I'm going to select it and go to Object, Pattern, Make. Say okay. All right, so there it is. And so now I can do all those little details I was doing earlier. Do I want to go brick by brick? Actually, I do. What do I want my offset to be? I can't remember. Did I do 1/3, 1/4, 2/3, 1/2? You know, and find what I want to do. And then size art to tile, 2/3, 1/5. So, you know, keep going through, finding which one you want, adjusting, you know, how do you want the overlay? How much should the width be? You can adjust that, right? You can play with that. And so on and so forth. So you have all of these elements to play with. When you have it exactly how you want it, you want to go ahead and name your pattern, which color theory you're doing, and which chroma. So for example, if you look at our, I'm going to pull this over. You're going to have for each color theory choice. So this one is our split comp. What did I say this was? I'm forgetting which one we used. It was split complementary. This is my hue and value. So I'm going to say colorway 1 is hue, split complementary hue. So because we're going to have a lot of patterns we're creating 3, 6, 79. We're creating 9. So we're going to call this split hue. Split complementary hue. And I'm going to just call it orange. And say okay. Now, oops, I forgot to exit out. Hold on. Pattern options. And then I go to the, I exit out of pattern option mode. Okay. So now we can test it by taking a shape, creating a shape, going to our swatches menu and filling it. Voila, there's my pattern. And now I would go ahead and do the same thing 2 more times. So here's this design. And I got 1, 2 more times for the other 2 color libraries I've done. So I have another one where I'm going to go in and grab all of my, oops, I want to use the, I'm going to do the value. So I'm going to look over here and say, okay, what is this going to look like with my new color? And then you just go through and do another colorway. Same thing with your new palette. Okay, are there any questions? It's a lot of information. I am recording it so you can look back at this video. And so you're going to do each pattern, and you're going to do 3 distinctly different patterns. And you're going to do 3 colorways for each of those patterns. And so this is my value one. My orange gets a little, everything gets lighter. Okay, so there's that one. And then I would do it again with my last one. Okay. Save a pattern, create the pattern, and go on and so on and so forth. Questions?